Hey guys, so I'm going to pose a question shortly, but before I do, I want to give you just a little bit of background. So, fun fact about me is that I have always loved business. I'm very much a business-minded person. However, I am also a very conscious and a people person. And so for that reason, I've always been driven to social business. So you may have heard of B Corps or social entrepreneurship and things of that sort. So that has always been like a passion of mine. When I was in college, I majored in sociology, minored in business because I was just like obsessed with this idea of having business that does good things for people, right, and communities. And so if you're familiar with this industry, then you're probably familiar with the Acumen Fund. And so the Acumen Fund is basically a social enterprise. Well, it's actually a non-profit venture capital fund, but they invest in social entrepreneurs. So people who have local businesses around the world that are giving back to their community, right? So for those who aren't really familiar, one of the most popular forms of this type of business would be like Tom's, right? Buy one, give one, that sort of concept. And so back to the Acumen Fund, 2014, I was a part of a local community that was also a part of this Acumen Fund, right? And so I was a part of this community, and we were doing some research like on the founder. So the founder of the Acumen Fund, her name is Jacqueline Novogratz. And I was so fascinated by her for so long. And one thing that I really love about her and something that she said that stuck with me, and this is going to be the question that I pretty much proposed to you. But one thing that she said was how, she was so laser focused on developing this organization that there were certain sacrifices that she had to make. And she went on to say that one of the sacrifices and the greatest sacrifice that she had to make was not having children, right? So for most women, that's huge. We do have a desire, we're more nurturing. I don't even want to get into all that. Fact of the matter is that she wanted kids, but she decided that was something that she was willing to sacrifice for the sake of this greater cause, right? And so in justifying that, her thing was, I'm willing to sacrifice having my own biological children because I believe that I will have children around the world, right? Like, I'm investing in these local communities. I can have the ability to foster and nurture different relationships with people. So the greatest sacrifice, or one of them that she mentions, is that she had to sacrifice having her own biological children. And that really stuck with me. And so I'm sitting here all these years later, and I'm really thinking about what's ahead, right? So what does God have for you? What is in God's plan and your purpose in your life? And oftentimes, I think when we're navigating life, we have this idea of sacrifice that is very different from what the reality of it is. It's so easy to sacrifice the things that aren't really a big deal to you, right? Like, oh, yeah, I can sacrifice not going there, but in reality, like, it really wasn't a huge deal for you anyway. But when it comes down to things that are extremely important to you, but you know that you have to like sacrifice to get to the next level or to achieve what your purpose to achieve, it makes it really challenging. And so I guess today, the question that I really have for you is just, what are you willing to sacrifice? What are you willing to walk away from because you know that God is trying to take you elsewhere? And I think it's really important because the reality is that major players, right, big people, the people you remember, the people that have all this impact in the world and has changed the world, they've made incredible sacrifices that no one will ever know of, and probably that they don't even speak of. And so, oftentimes when we think of sacrifice, it's like sacrifice to your convenience. But the reality, and I spoke about this before, when you have to walk away from great things because they're not God things. And I think it's important to be mindful of that. Like, what is it that you are really willing to sacrifice to get to where God wants to take you? And it's not easy, obviously. That's huge. to sacrifice biological children for someone who really wanted it because she knew that there was a greater cause on her life, a greater call on her life to change millions of other people's lives around the world. Like, that's incredible. But is that a sacrifice that you would make? Is that a sacrifice that I would make? But I think it's really important to know where God's taking you and to start pruning and cutting things out that don't align with the thing. I mean, if in fact that's, the life that you want to live, if you want to have big impact, we talk about all these people, and none of that stuff came easy. They had to cut off family members, leave people they loved. They had to cut off family members. They had to leave people they loved. They had to uproot themselves. They had to sleep in cars. The struggle's real. The struggle's real. Sacrifice is a real thing. And so I guess the question, again, that I'm asking you today is just, what are you willing to sacrifice? Because the reality is that major players make major sacrifices. And it's something to definitely think about, and something that I'm going to be thinking about and mindful of as I move forward with what's pushing me towards where I believe I want to go and what isn't, and what sacrifices am I really willing to make in order to get there. So yeah, be encouraged. It's something to meditate on, something to think about. I'm sure you may think about it, or if you haven't, I hope it blessed you. And yeah, I hope it's a conversation moving forward for you and where God's leading you. So have a good one.